And for me to see that in the Targums, well, it made me, want to do a little bit more research. And so I found this particular story. And this is a story from a Jewish fairy tale, but it's kind of interesting, so I'm going to read it. This is The Giant of the Flood, and it's from a collection of Jewish fairy tales. Just before the world was drowned, all the animals gathered in front of the ark, and Father Noah carefully inspected them. All ye that lie down shall enter and be saved from the deluge that is about to destroy the world, he said. Yet that stand cannot enter. Then the various creatures began to march forward into the ark. Father Noah watched them closely. He seemed troubled. I wonder, he said to himself, how I shall obtain a unicorn and how I shall get into the ark. I can bring thee a unicorn, Father Noah, he heard in a voice of thunder, and turning round he saw the giant, Og. But thou must agree to save me too from the flood. Begone, cried Noah. Thou art a demon, not a human being. I can have no dealings with thee. Pity me, whined the giant. See how my figure is shrieking? Once I was so tall that I could drink water from the clouds and toast fish at the sun. I fear not that I shall be drowned, but that all the food will be destroyed and that I shall perish of hunger. Noah, however, only smiled, but he grew serious again when Og brought a unicorn. It was as big as a mountain, although the giant said it was the smallest that he could find. It lay down in front of the ark, and Noah saw by that action that he must save it. For some time he was puzzled what to do, but at last a bright idea struck him. He attached the huge beast to the ark by a rope fastened to its horn, so that it could swim alongside and be fed. Og seated himself on a mountain near at hand and watched the rain pouring down. Faster and faster it fell in torrents until the rivers overflowed and the waters began to rise rapidly on the land and sweep all things away. Father Noah stood gloomily before the door of the ark until the water reached his neck, and then it swept him inside. The door closed with a bang, and the ark rose gallantly on the flood and began to move along. The unicorn swam alongside, and as it passed Og, the giant jumped onto its back. See, Father Noah, he cried with a huge chuckle. You will have to save me after all. I will snatch all the food you put through the window for the unicorn. But Noah saw that it was useless to argue with Og, who might indeed sink the ark with his tremendous strength. I will make a bargain with thee, he shouted from a window. I will feed thee, but thou must promise to be a servant to my descendants. Og was very hungry, so he accepted the conditions and devoured his first breakfast. The rain continued to fall in great big sheets that shut out the light of day. Inside the ark, however, all was bright and cheerful, for Noah had collected the most precious of the stones of the earth and had used them for the windows. Their radiance illumined the whole of the 3 stories in the ark. Some of the animals were troublesome, and Noah got no sleep at all. The lion had a bad attack of fever. In a corner, a bird slept the whole of the time. This was the phoenix. Wake up, said Noah one day. It is feeding time. Thank you, returned the bird. I saw thou wert busy, Father Noah, so I would not trouble thee. Thou art a good bird, said Noah, much touched. Therefore thou shalt never die. One day the rain ceased. The clouds rolled away and the sun shone brightly again. How strange the world looked. It was like a vast ocean. Nothing but water could be seen anywhere, and only 1 or 2 of the highest mountaintops peeped above the flood. All the world was drowned, and Noah gazed on the desolate scene from one of the windows with tears in his eyes. Og, riding gaily on the unicorn behind the ark, was quite happy. "Ha ha," he laughed gleefully. "I shall be able to eat and drink just as much as I like now, and shall never be troubled by those tiny little creatures, the mortals." "Be not so sure," said Noah. "Those tiny mortals shall be thy masters, and shall outlive thee and the whole race of giants and demons." The giant did not relish this prospect. He knew that whatever Noah prophesied would come true, and he was so sad that he ate no food for 2 days, and he began to grow smaller and thinner. He became more and more unhappy as day by day the water subsided, and the mountains began to appear. At last, the ark rested on Mount Ararat, and Og's long ride came to an end. "I will soon leave thee, Father Noah," he said. "I shall wander round the world to see what is left of it." "Thou canst not go until I permit thee," said Noah. "Hast thou forgotten our compact so soon? Thou must be my servant. I have work for thee." Giants are not fond of work, and Og, who was the father of all the giants, was particularly lazy. He cared only to eat and sleep, but he knew he was in Noah's power, and he shed bitter tears when he saw the land appear again. "Stop," commanded Noah. "Dost thou wish to drown the world once more with thy big tears?" So Og sat on a mountain and rocked from side to side, weeping silently to himself. He watched the animals leave the ark and had to do all the hard work when Noah's children built houses. Daily he complained that he was shrinking to the size of the mortals, for Noah said there was not too much food. One day Noah said to him, "Come with me, Og. I am going around the world. I am commanded to plant fruit and flowers to make the earth beautiful, and I need thy help." For many days they wandered all over the earth, and Og was compelled to carry the heavy bag of seeds. The last thing Noah planted was the grapevine. "What is this, food or drink?" asked Og. "Both," replied Noah. "It can be eaten, or its juice made into wine." And as he planted it, he blessed the grape. "Be thou," he said, "a plant pleasing to the eye, bear fruit that will be food for the hungry, and a health-giving drink to the thirsty and sick." Og grunted. "I will offer up sacrifice to this wonderful fruit," he said. "May I not do so now that our labors are over?" Noah agreed. We're almost done with the story. Noah agreed, and the giant brought a sheep, lion, and a pig and a monkey. And first he slaughtered the sheep, then the lion. "When a man shall taste but a few drops of the wine," he said, "he shall be as harmless as a sheep. When he takes a little more, he shall be as strong as a lion." Then Og began to dance around the plant, and he killed the pig and the monkey. Noah was very much surprised. "I am giving thy descendants 2 extra blessings," said Og, chuckling. He rolled over and over in the ground in great glee, and then said, "When a man shall drink too much of the juice of the wine, then shall he become a beast like the pig. And if then he still continues to drink, he shall behave foolishly like a monkey. And that is why unto this day too much wine makes a man silly." Og himself often drank too much, and many years afterward he was a servant to the patriarch Abraham, that later scolded him until he became so frightened that he dropped a tooth. Abraham made an ivory chair for himself from his tooth, and afterwards Og became king of Bashan. But he forgot his compact with Noah. Instead of helping the Israelites to obtain Canaan, he opposed them. He said, "I will kill them all with one blow," he declared. Exerting all his enormous strength, he uprooted a mountain, and raising it high above his head, he prepared to drop it on the camp of the Israelites and crush it. But a wonderful thing happened. The mountain was full of grasshoppers and ants who bored millions of tiny holes into it. When King Og raised the great mass, it crumbled in his hands and fell over his head and round his neck like a collar. He tried to pull it off, but his teeth became entangled in the mass. And as he danced about in rage and pain, Moses, the leader of the Israelites, approached him. Moses was a tiny man compared with Og. He was only 10 ells high, and he carried with him a sword of the same length. And with a mighty effort, he jumped 10 nails into the air, and raising the sword, he managed to strike the giant on the ankle and wound him mortally. And thus, after many years, did the terrible giant of the flood perish for breaking his word to Father Noah. Now, I know that's a Jewish fairy tale, but it's interesting to me how it gives a little more introspection into what the Targums had brought forward. And it wasn't but a couple weeks ago that I even found both of these stories. Alan, you want to comment?
Well, I think I'd need to read that again or just consider it and run it through the Bible. I couldn't say 100% that it's anti-biblical or anything right now, but what the Bible does record about Og is that in Deuteronomy 3 and 11 that he was a descendant of the Rephaim and that he had an iron bedstead. Again, the iron speaks to the kingdom of iron. It's the fourth kingdom in Daniel. That it was 9 cubits length and 4 cubits in width. So that's a minimum of 14 by 6. Some people would say even 16, 17 by 8 or 9. And that in Deuteronomy 1 and 4, which would be approximately 1407 BC, that he was killed by the children of Israel under the leading and direction of Moses. And he was, as well as Sihon, who you can read about in Deuteronomy, was a king of the Amorites. And in Amos 2:9, it says that the Amorites' height were as the cedars. And if you take that to the Hebrew, it's a cedrus Lebaniyah. And they grow up to be 130 feet tall. So...
Right. And then, of course, we know that even in the book of Enoch, it talks about, how both the stature of humanity, because, before the flood, humanity lived almost 1,000 years themselves. And the giants, they had these almost immortal lifespans. They lived very, very long lives. But in the book of Enoch, it talks about how the statures and the lifespans of both humanity and the giants would be reduced. Humanity's lifeline would be reduced to 120 years after the flood, and the giants would have their lifespans reduced to 500 years. And again, I don't claim that story is authentic or that the Targums are correct in when they're talking about Og writing on this particular ark. I just thought it was interesting, and because I had found it and I'd never heard of it before, I wanted to share it with all of you and to share it with the listening audience so you could consider it for yourself. But again, I'm not making any judgments as to the relevancy of any of these texts that we're bringing forward. I'm just telling you what they say. And so we're going to go now into how the Canaanite line had continuance through the flood. And this was something that came up on the show with Minister Fortson when he had asked me, and I didn't know specifically how the Cain line had gone. I just knew that Canaan himself was condemned after the flood for sleeping with the wife of Noah. Ham. Canaan was condemned, but it was Ham that slept with Noah's wife and seeded Canaan, who was his fourth-born son. But I found when I was studying the book of Jasher, and Jasher is also mentioned in the Bible twice. I can look up the specifics of when it was, but it said in the book of Jasher, it mentions specifically who Noah's wife was. And this would be kind of interesting because from the book of Jasher, Noah, the son of Lamech, refrained from taking a wife in those days to beget children. For he said, surely now God will destroy the earth. Wherefore then shall I beget children? And Noah was a just man. He was perfect in his generation, and the Lord chose him to raise up seed from his seed upon the face of the earth. And the Lord said unto Noah, take unto thee a wife and beget children, for I have seen thee righteous before me in this generation. And thou shalt raise up seed, and thy children with thee in the midst of the earth. And Noah went and took a wife, and he chose Naamah, the daughter of Enoch, and she was 580 years old. Now, this Enoch that is being talked about here is of the line of Cain, and I'll pull that up here in just a second. And Noah was 498 years old when he took Naamah for his wife. And Naamah conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Japheth, saying, God has enlarged me in the earth. And she conceived again and bare a son, and he called his name Shem, saying, God has made me a remnant to raise up seed in the midst of the earth. And Noah was 502 years old when Naamah bare Shem, and the boys grew up and went in the ways of the Lord, in all that Methuselah and Noah their father taught them. And Lamech, the father of Noah, died in those days, yet verily he did not go with all his heart in the ways of his father. And he died in the 195th year of the life of Noah. Let me get you to comment, Alan, and then I'm going to find this genealogy real quick.
Okay, so for all you truth seekers out there who want to make this link, one of the secrets to this is in Genesis 4 and 12. Go to Blue Letter Bible yourself or open up the concordance. It speaks about Cain being a large, powerful chameleon or reptile that will lead the earth astray, swinging to and fro as a miner in the pits, alluding to the spirit realm and ascension and descension under the powers of Christ. It also says in the KJV that a fugitive and a vagabond you shall be in the earth. So I've heard others say that the reptilians went under the earth, but I don't know if that's quite biblical because it says everything under heaven was destroyed in the book of Genesis aside from what was on the ark. I believe that the most scriptural possibility to this and truth would be that it was through the wives. It was through one of the four wives on the ark, or possibly that they went off-world with technology. And the Anunnaki is a lot of false paradigms and traps in that, and it is Antichrist, but I believe that there is some distinct truth to that, and also history testifies to that, as well as some of the text from other continents. Or possibly there's further interdimensional breeding going on here that would, after the flood, as well as the Nephilim, that fallen angelic who were part of the Nakash, or possibly even Lucifer, bred again, creating a fallen hybrid race, partially angelic, partially angelic / reptilian, and partially human.